Welcome back to another edition of the I Prefer the 80s and 90s Sports Over Today. It's a show where I, Richard Harris, talk about why I prefer the sports of the 80s and 90s to today's sports. Today's show is kind of a pick-on show, but it's kind of one of the reasons why I prefer the 80s and 90s sports to today. Last night, I went to the Dodgers-Braves baseball game at lovely Chavez Ravine Dodger Stadium. And it was a great game. Atlanta won 8-7. The stars on both teams showed out. That's the theme of the show today, showing out. Because there's a huge difference between today and yesterday. I watched an interview one time with Roger Clemens. And Roger Clemens, they were talking about the guys that come up to home plate, and when they hit a home run, they watch it, run slowly around the bases. And Roger Clemens said something that surprised me. He said the guys that normally hit the home runs and do all that nonsense, it doesn't bother him because that's what they do. So when Ken Griffey Jr. would launch one, all Clemens would do was ask for another baseball. And I think most pitchers too. In fact, I remember when I first moved out here to LA in the 90s, the Angels were playing Seattle, and someone threw at Ken Griffey Jr. in the first inning. So then in the next inning, the Mariners retaliated. It wasn't Randy Johnson pitching. It was one of their other pitchers. And they plunked one of the players from the Angels, and a fight happened. Angels and Mariners like to fight each other. And while they're fighting, funniest thing I've ever seen happen this side of the Darryl Dawkins thing, where Darryl Dawkins apparently, when he fought Maurice Lucas in the NBA Finals back in 1977, and Dr. J and a few other players didn't jump in to help out or didn't jump in. He was so mad at his teammates, and he felt they let him down, that for the rest of the series, supposedly, he didn't play hard and was dominated by Bill Walton because his intensity was taken away because he felt his teammates didn't have his back. That, of course, wasn't a funny situation. The funny situation in this baseball game talking about is, whilst they are fighting, the teams are all out in the field, the manager of the Angels, at the time, I believe, was Mike Scioscia. But I don't think it was before Scioscia. But the manager of the Angels quietly walked over to Ken Griffey Jr., put his hand on his shoulder and said, "Well, we're not throwing at you. You're too important to the game. We're not throwing at you." And they kind of stood there arm in arm, and he was like, "Okay, thanks for telling me." And they walked off the field, and the fight was going on, and it was done. I tell you that story because last night during the Braves-Dodgers game, sitting next to this Mexican guy, and he's had a few pops, so I don't drink anymore, which I miss because I really loved to have had a beer last night. It was such a nice night to a baseball game. And I'm sitting next to him, and he says to me, "That's some bull." I said, "What?" He goes, "Did you see what Acuna just did?" I said, "What did he just do?" He said he ran past Mookie Betts on the base run on his home run trot when he hit a grand slam, and he did a pirouette and kind of showed up the Dodgers. "Oh my God, the Dodgers are going to make him pay his next at bat. The next pitch is going at his head. If that doesn't happen, there's one going to go behind him. And if they don't do it tonight, they're going to do it during this series because nobody does that to the Dodgers." And I looked at him and I said, "You're in the wrong era, sir." And he goes, "What?" I said, "You're in the wrong era. They don't do that no more because every player in baseball today has a brand. And even though Acuna is not known for the home run, teams, pitchers will let him run the bases and do what he wants on the base path because that's his brand. He does a LeBron thing when he gets on third base. He does the too small thing, which I don't understand. I don't know. Albies does that also. I still don't understand what too small means in baseball. But they do these things, and people accept it. Tim Anderson of the Chicago White Sox does the same thing, and nobody says a word. Man, you're lying. I said, I'm not lying. I said, how much baseball you watch? He watches a lot. I watch a lot. I said, I watch a lot too. My team is the Mets. I watch East Coast baseball, West Coast baseball, Central Division baseball. They let them get away with it. The pose, the bat toss. Remember when my man from the Texas Rangers hit that home run and threw the bat, and then he slid into second base hard and got into the fight and got cracked in the face by the second baseman? Yeah, all that tough guy stuff ended. And he's like, nah, Dodgers going to throw at him. I said, it ain't going to happen. I said, all across sports now, you get dunked on in basketball, nobody cares. Messi comes to America. Can you imagine? I said to him, can you imagine Messi coming to your neighborhood, coming to your country, coming to your league, and just dominating it? And nobody tries to tackle him hard. Nobody tries to bump him hard. I mean, when Dr. J came into the ABA, from the ABA to the NBA, Dr. J was jumping over everybody so they couldn't knock him down. Michael Jordan started dunking on everybody. People started knocking him down. Dwayne Wade, people started knocking him down. Allen Iverson, people started knocking him down. Yeah, man, you're right. You're right. But I'm telling you tonight, the Dodgers are going to get revenge. I said, no, they're not. Second at bat for Acuna. First pitch, fouled back. The next pitch, fly ball to center field. I looked at the man. He goes, it's all right, he'll come up again. Third time up, not a pitch near him. Fourth time up, not a pitch near him. Braves win. Fifth time up, nothing. Now, the funny part about the game, too, was Mookie Betts hit 2 home runs last night. He didn't do anything special on the bases. He just ran the bases and got home. The great players know time and place. And to me, that separates greats, GOATs, from the normals. I'll never forget as long as I live watching SportsCenter, watching NFL prime time. And the Buffalo Bills were up 35-0 against the Atlanta Falcons, or it might have been the Washington football team. I don't remember who it was. It was Atlanta Falcons. Kickoff, deep kickoff. Dion gets it. And there he goes. And I'll never forget, he's running down the field and he's high-stepping. And Chris Berman goes, hey, Dion, you're down 35-0. What the hell are you high-stepping for? But they did their normal thing because every time Dion scored, they would go, prime time, which was funny. And then he cuts it halfway through, interrupts Tom Jackson, and goes, hey, Dion, what the hell are you high-stepping for? You're down 35-0. And I laughed my butt off. And I'm laughing right now. It's hurting my stomach to hold in the laughter right now. But very funny. There is no rules anymore. I talked about this yesterday, which was ironic, that I go to a baseball game and a guy wants to talk to me about, the way the game used to be played. And I'm like saying to myself, I should tell this guy a podcast. But it was funny that he said that, because it's the truth. People today accept being shown up, except for umpires. And actually, umpires are even allowing you your moment, because you don't get that moment anymore. Because if a home run is disputed, if an out is disputed, if a fair or foul ball is disputed, you say one word to the umpire, you want to challenge. You challenge it, They go to New York. New York looks at it. And if New York says the umpire is right, the umpire is right. If the umpire is wrong, they change the call. Move on. Now, the only thing you can't argue with in baseball is balls and strikes. So you step one step towards the umpire on balls and strikes. If you're a manager, you're gone. If you're a player, depends on who you are, you're gone. If you're a superstar and you argue, depends on how many bombs you drop. But if you don't drop any bombs and you say, come on, man, that was low. Come on now. Come on. Umpire say, nah, it's a good pitch, Bob. Come on, man, that was low. Mike, that was strike, all right? Let's move on. Come on, Blue, you know. All right. Then you walk away. Back in the day, they used to get down, boy. They'd argue balls and strikes. Earl Weaver used to throw the dirt. Billy Martin used to kick the dirt. They used to put on a show. But there are no written rules anymore. I remember when Madison Bumgarner was pitching. I think it was against the Mets. And Paul Wilson didn't like being thrown inside or was hit by a pitcher to pitcher, and he charged the mound. And he found out that this homeboy can fight. Some of these pitchers can fight. I don't know, it wasn't Madison Bumgarner. It was another guy who was a relief pitcher. I can't remember his name. But he could fight. And so my man came running out to the mound, and he found out that Paul Wilson found out that he can't fight that well because he got dropped. And that was all she wrote. Baseball has changed. Someone said the other day, I told you this yesterday, difference between sports today and yesterday. Everybody today has a brand. I just did 3 hours of surveys, and one of the surveys was talking about, do I like the fact that athletes have a brand, or every athlete should have a brand? And I say, hell no. Not every athlete should have a brand. Just because you could jump higher than me, I'm 55 years old, can't shoot a jump shot because I can't see the basket, don't make you a better human being than I to tell the world how life should be. Because that's not how you really feel. You're just doing it for the money. And so the craziest part about yesterday for Ronald Acuna was after the Grand Slam and the celebration and, the Braves win, we find out after the game he got married 2 hours before the game. So he was on cloud nine. But maybe, he was trying to show up Mookie because they are the two top people vying for league MVP. But Mookie answered him. He hit a grand slam. I dipped my cap in. But I hit two, and I'm about to set a record. You might be the first guy to get 30 steals and 60 steals and 30 home runs. Congratulations. But I'm about to set the record for the most home runs hit by a leadoff hitter. And so this weekend series is going to be a tug of war between them two. And then you throw Freddie Freeman in there, the ex-Brave. He wants to show out as well. But I had to tell you about that last. You should have seen it. He was hot. He was like, "Wow, Acuna did that. I can't believe. Oh my God!" And I'm looking at him like, "This is baseball today. Everybody shows up. Everybody shows off. Everyone's got to dance. Everybody's got the little 5-second moment. Deal with it." Nah, man. Come on, my neighborhood acting like that. He'd get his butt kicked. I'm like, well, if he came into your neighborhood, he'd come in with a lot of people with him too to make sure you couldn't kick his butt. And we laughed. But, again, one of the reasons why I prefer the sports of the 80s and 90s. He wouldn't be doing that running around second base showing me up. Or he wouldn't be doing that showing up anybody in the 80s and 90s. He would get to third base maybe and get a little dancey dance in. But someone will remember, and he paid a price for making us look like an ass. I'm Richard Harris. Labor Day weekend.